Morning. Can everyone hear me now? Yes? Us? Yeah, you have some answers. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I know. We're all enjoying the delicious lunch and cake. But we'll go ahead and jump in. We've got a couple announcements while we all kind of settle before we fully begin. First of all, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. If I've met you before, you know who I am. But if not, I am Dean Camacho. I'm the Immaculate Heart Community Communications Specialist. I do want to say thank you, everyone, for joining here in person today and everyone on Zoom that you will see in just a second. Some things to remember if this is your first time joining us or here in this space. There are restrooms to the left out of this door, and then there's down the hall to the left out of this back door as well. I do want to bring up our Friends of the Heart volunteer program. Please stop by the registration table to sign up and help at all of the exciting events we're going to have, and you're going to hear them very shortly. You're also going to see some surveys on the tables with QR codes. Please fill those out. We're really looking for that feedback to see what everyone's kind of looking for and maybe who or what people want to see next. For those that are on Zoom, we will also go ahead and put a link in the chat to the survey for you to fill out as well. Beginning all of the events coming up, so we do invite you all to the 4th annual Ashes on the Street on Wednesday, February 18th, starting at 9 a.m. That's going to be at 640 Main Street at the Cecil Hotel with our own Bishop Dylan Littlefield and Immaculate Heart staff. That same evening, we'd love for you to join us on Zoom for an online event from 6 to 7 p.m. as our Immaculate Heart Community Spiritual Resource Council is leading in an Ash Wednesday community gathering titled Embracing Shadow and Light, which is an offering from IHM Michael Tompkins. On the 24th, we're kicking off our first installment of the IHC Film Club. Join us on Zoom to watch Classroom 4 and Clyde's Kitchen. Those are 2 social justice films with elements of community and the incarceration system. Our next Lunch and Learn is February 26th at La Casa de Maria in Santa Barbara with Cause, a grassroots organization committed to social, economic, and environmental justice for working class and immigrant communities in California's Central Coast, which is clearly something very, very dire in these times. That's it for this month. As for March, we are sponsoring the Godmothers of the Disappeared. Join us in solidarity March 10th and every Tuesday at the Federal Building from 12 to 1 p.m. March 13th, we're back here in LA for our March Lunch and Learn with Reverend Kelvin Shawls. Excuse me on that one. March 14th is the Environmental Commission hosting a new project called the Bright Action Program. Join us on Zoom from 4 to 5:30 to find out how you can reduce your carbon emissions through meaningful steps. And as a final reminder, these events are provided free of charge. We do appreciate any donations and support made to keep these programs running and accessible to everyone. Now, moving on, at the very end, there will be a Q&A portion. We ask that you hold questions till the very end. Please raise your hand. We'll bring a mic over, and please speak clearly into the mic. We will alternate between 2 questions in the room and then 2 questions online for our Zoom guests to still kind of be a part of the discussion. So thank you for your patience on that one. And now we begin, again, the thank yous. Thank you to St. Paul staff and our lovely community for hosting a space in which we can connect. We thank Chef Tim for the food and everyone that kind of went into this process for getting us the food today. A very big thank you to the Immaculate Heart team for all of their involvement in organizing these programs and making it possible. And the thanks will continue as long as we have these programs. If there's a need, we find a way to make it happen. And these days, there's always a need. Therefore, we will always try to step up and make it possible. And this time, I'd actually like to say thank you directly to Gabby, Michaela, Sheila, Elizabeth, Sherry, and of course, our mastermind behind it all, Pam, wherever she is, probably running around somewhere, and throw in Casper, our wonderful AV guy as well. If we could, yes, thank you. Sometimes it's nice to have the name behind the faces. And typically, I give great thanks to our monthly speaker. In this case, it is the lovely Bob Williams. Yes. There are plenty of wonderful things I could mention from his overall amazing efforts and dedication to everyone and everything he interacts with, and his unwavering passion for interfaith work. But for such a special occasion, I think the best will be said next by our Immaculate Heart Community President and Principal Executive Officer, Sherry Purcell, who I welcome up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Well, what a great turnout to celebrate Bob in his 40th year with the diocese here. Let's give him a hand. Thank you all for being here and joining us in our Lunch and Learn. This is our monthly series that we call Lunch and Learn. We began it about 3 years ago, and it's become one of our anchor programs, actually. Last year, as we celebrated 55 years as an inclusive lay community of men and women who believe in God and who live out our faith through justice and social justice activities aligned with our 5 commissions. We have a commission on justice for women, one for immigrants, refugees, and indigenous people, people who are unhoused, and the environment, and anti-racism as spiritual transformation. We are a community without walls. We're not nuns. We don't live in convents. We live throughout the U.S., Canada, and in England, and we accept new members every year. Check out our website and our Friends of the Heart. Please look at that table in the back that has all the activities that we have. And if you want to become more involved, please become a Friend of the Heart, which is one of our new initiatives. So before I introduce Bob further, I'd like to begin with our Power Up practice, and I think some of these are out on the table in the back. So we started the Power Up at Noon practice last year as we were, our country was evolving into something that was of concern to many of us. So we begin our program today with an invitation to you to participate in the Power Up and for a few minutes right now. So if you just quiet yourselves, maybe put your feet on the ground, put your papers down, take that last bite of food that you're chewing on, which is so good, and put your hand over your heart. So we invite you now to breathe into your heart. Breathe very deeply a couple of times. And then breathe into your heart. Power up your heart energy. And send that energy out across the Los Angeles community where so many people are struggling and suffering in these times. Send that love and compassion to them. Another breath in, power up your heart. And breathe that out to our country. Again, our country that is struggling to find its moral compass. May we send love and peace and energy to our nation. Breathe into your heart again, power it up, and send that energy across the world to Mother Nature, to all those and the earth that is at risk and wanting to be whole again. And finally, breathe in, power up your heart, and spread it to everyone in this room who came here today, people who are united in God and in wanting to make this world a better place. And with that, I say, let it be. Amen. Thank you. So our Lunch and Learn series gives us the opportunity to live out our goal statement that calls us to hold reverence for all of creation as we foster access to persons to truth, dignity, and full human development, and to change practices and situations that impede such access. So this Lunch and Learn series gives us an opportunity to hear from the heroes and sheroes of our times, the people that are out there doing that work to bring that access. And we have 3 objectives. Those of you who have been here before can probably recite them with me. But we're here today to educate ourselves on what Bob is going to talk to us about. And we are working toward justice and social justice issues. So we're here to educate ourselves. We're here to pray, and we ask you to pray in your own faith tradition about what you're hearing. And then we ask you to find a way to act, put your faith into action, and do something different after you're here today. So we are welcoming Bob Williams to our Lunch and Learn. And so as you listen to Bob, figure out some ways you might take some action. So as we said, Bob is celebrating 40 years here with the diocese. He serves as the Canon for Common Life, overseeing communication, interfaith and civic relations, and archival collections at the direction of Bishop John Harvey Taylor. He's an appointed commissioner of the City of Los Angeles. Bob is president of the Board of Trustees of the Neighborhood Youth Association. I think some of those people are here today. That's a 120-year-old diocesan institution dedicated to 100% college placement of under-resourced youth. Based in New York and Los Angeles between 2004 and 2008, Bob served as the Episcopal Church's Director of Communications, managing the Episcopal News Service and reporting from Africa, Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and across the Americas. He's a parishioner of St. James Episcopal Church in the Wilshire Center. He's a 4th-generation South Californian. Bob was born and raised in North San Diego County, and he holds a master's degree in journalism from USC. From 1989 to 2017, Bob taught part-time in the Los Angeles Unified School District Division of Adult and Career Education, where significant portions of the Diploma Plus competency-based curriculum were shaped by the late Kathleen Lucite, IHM. And a 3-term past president of the Interreligious Council of Southern California, Bob enjoys the multi-faith collaboration shared here at St. Paul's Commons. With us, we moved in here 3 years ago, January, with Immaculate Heart Community, with Nefesh, represented Jordanos here, Nefesh Jewish Community, and with the Episcopal Diocese and other partners. So please join me in welcoming our wonderful Canon Bob Williams.
Thank you, Sherry. Oh, thank you, one and all. Thank you so much, Sherry, for that wonderful greeting. And happy Valentine's, everyone. It's exciting, isn't it, to think that the heart, the Immaculate Heart, we're at the heart of the heart here on Valentine's Day. So thank you for that wonderfulness. Oh, I bring you greetings this afternoon from Bishop John Harvey Taylor, who is traveling at the present moment. He's in Montgomery, Alabama, with the National Association of Episcopal Schools. They're having an important conference and conversation on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So important in these times. So Bishop Taylor sends you his greetings. I thank you also for the recognition and celebration today of my 40 years of work here with the Episcopal Diocese. What a gift it has been and continues to be of service in this way and to collaborate with you all in the Immaculate Heart Community. This past Tuesday, the anniversary of my first day on the job, and Canon Pat O'Reilly is here and will remember Ruth Nicastro, who hired me and mentored me through all those years. I remarked that our communications work was such in our department that we had no email, we had no internet, hadn't been, rolled out yet, no mobile phones, no fax, and certainly no Zoom, and definitely none of the advanced technologies of ChatGPT or artificial intelligence, commonly known as AI, right? We had none of that. How did we ever do it? We had a Selectric typewriter, each one of us, and a telephone, and that was that. So anyway, really something. But talking about artificial intelligence, it really gets us into the consideration of the future and the present. And Bishop Taylor posted a very interesting reflection on how AI is impacting hotel workers. And he discovered this in the hotel in which he's staying in Montgomery. Maybe you saw his post. A person commented on this, and I'm going to read the comment because I think it's so germane to what we're considering here today. The commenter said, "Nobody voted for AI. It is imposed on the world because it promises great wealth for top investors. No one can opt out of AI." That's something I learned in my research for this talk. We can't opt out of it. We're already in it. It is compulsory. The net effect is more concentration of power in the hands of oligarchs and more dependence on their whims by everyone else. Educational institutions that, like this, are stressing AI adaptation and training, like Phillips Academy. This must be one of Bishop John's school chums from Phillips Academy, and elite universities. AI has a huge role in our political crisis, and it is not on the side of the angels. It automatically makes decisions that favor its own survival, prosperity, and distribution, much like biological organisms. It is an invasive species. Wow. Well, but we can rise up, we can have hope, and see what we can do as we look to the future. The changes in technologies these several decades clearly are revolutionary and transformative, and so also in various ways has been the work of the Episcopal Church and the wider faith community. We still have much progress to make, but we've become significantly more multicultural, more LGBTQ plus affirming, and we continue to benefit from the ever-increasing ordination of women to holy orders, including as bishops and archbishops, notably our new Archbishop of Canterbury, Sarah Mullally, who's just taken office. This momentum was just getting started in those days in 1986. My mentor and supervisor, as I mentioned, Canon Ruth Nicastro, had just returned that week from the installation of presiding Bishop Ed Browning, who famously said, quote, "There will be no outcasts in this church." Through these years, I've been a student of history, and now, as retirement is somewhere around the corner, not just yet, but coming, I'm more of a student now of futuring. I'm fascinated by this discipline. About 20 years ago, we had a talk at the Episcopal Church Center in New York by a woman named Edie Weiner, and she co-wrote a book called Future Think. I was rereading it, and I thought, my, that was 20 years ago, but many of these predictions really have materialized. So I'm quite fascinated now by futuring, which can be defined as strategic foresight that helps individuals and communities shape desirable outcomes by understanding current trends, challenging assumptions, Keyboard Center mission statement, how about that, and creating actionable vision for what is possible and sustainable. And incidentally, AI helped me write that definition. Truth telling. This afternoon, we'll have time only to touch on the very basics of this work of futuring, which some describe as an art and others call it a science, and some, I think myself included, call it both. But my hope is to provide a few leads and prompts that may guide you in your own exploration of these fascinating areas. Specifically this afternoon, we'll touch on examples of futuring at work in various scenarios, including serving the unhoused, countering the current attacks on democracy, and strategically planning for multi-faith collaboration, and how each of these efforts is creating hope, Again, I mention hope. We must have hope. That's what's going to keep us going. Returning to history for a moment, we know that civilizations and individuals have long been captivated by attempting to foresee and predict the future. One thinks, for example, of Nostradamus, the 16th century French seer, or remember the late mathematician and clairvoyant Jean Dixon? Some of her predictions were not quite right, but others were. And then, of course, we have the daily horoscopes. But more significantly, at a completely different level, scripturally and theologically, we have the biblical tradition of prophecy to consider. And you may recall the popular quotation often attributed to Mark Twain: "History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes." History does not repeat itself, but it often rhymes, suggesting that while events may not occur in exactly the same way, they often share similar patterns. And how fundamental is this observation, tragically, as we look at the surfacing of fascism and authoritarianism that is threatening democracies everywhere, most especially our own. Understanding the horrors that have occurred help us resist present evils. More about that as we move forward this afternoon. But the quote attributed to Twain underscores for me the importance of making futuring and remembering a dual exercise. So we're futuring and remembering at the same time in order to make meaning. My great mentor, Barbara Braver, who was communications officer to Bishop Browning and presiding Bishop Frank Griswold, said that our mission as Episcopal communicators is building community and making meaning. And I have never forgotten that and appreciate Barbara's guidance so much through these whole 40 years. So grateful to Barbara. And for example, this dual dynamic influenced me in choosing a title for a book I'm writing about the history of the Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles. My friends often ask when this epic work will be finished, and indeed I have been researching it for the last 15 years. But there's a lot there. And my great colleague Janet Kawamoto did me a wonderful favor. She said, "Bob, you're not writing an encyclopedia. You're writing a popular history." And my blessed grandmother, before she died, she said, "Just put in a lot of pictures. That's what people want to see, and keep the words to a minimum." Thank you, Betty. But the title I've chosen is Horizons and Heritage, the Episcopal Church in Southern California and the Central Coast. My hope is that the title will call the congregations and individuals of the diocese to look intentionally at what is ahead for them and for us collectively as we look at the horizons around us, while also understanding the gifts, the opportunities, the challenges, the limitations of our shared heritage in this time and space. All of this is interrelated. Through the years, various futurists have captured our thinking with concepts that seem impossible upon suggestion, but then materialize. How many of you drove next to a Waymo car on the way here this afternoon? My Parkview neighbors, there was one turning left last night at about 11 o'clock into our driveway over here where we live. And I thought, oh, we're in for it now. But we survived that with the Waymo car. And of course, in my childhood, there was Rosie the robot who vacuumed the floor. And we kids thought that was great because we didn't have to vacuum. Rosie the robot would do it. Well, now how many of you have the Roomba thing that goes around on the floor and does the vacuuming? So yeah, there we are. These things that seemed impossible once have come to pass. And there's a very insightful and prolific journalist and blogger named Patrick Kieger, K-I-G-E-R, I hope I'm saying it correctly, who has done considerable research and writing in this area. And I commend to you his website, patrickjkieger.com. The articles he's contributed on his website are so informative, just as the ones he posts on howstuffworks.com. And one of those pieces is titled 10 of the World's Most Groundbreaking Futurists. I won't go into all 10 of them, but I would like you to go into the Wayback Machine with me for a moment to think of the writer Alvin Toffler. Do you remember Alvin Toffler? And the book he wrote, 1970, Future Shock. When I was, my first job in life was helping in my grandfather's lumberyard. But my second job, I was a page at the Oceanside Public Library. And I was always hoping I would become a full book, but for that time I was just a page. And I remember being fascinated by looking at Alvin Toffler's book. And you may recall that, that he really introduced the concept of high transience. Yeah, I know that's right on the tip of our tongues, isn't it? High transience, in which relationships last for shorter and shorter periods of time, and people, ideas, and organizations get used up more quickly than they presently were doing. And he predicted that consumers increasingly would evolve into a throwaway society. Doesn't that sound familiar? Buying disposable products designed to fill temporary needs, never mind landfills, driven by fads that were consciously created to stimulate buying. Well, his prediction came through, didn't it? Another futurist, Michio Kaku, who specialized in string theory, was commenting that, predicting that computers will be able to read our minds, which will give us the power to move objects and machines by just thinking about them. So, wow, AI comes in there. I'm mindful of two great tech experts who are with us, Dr. Paula Arvidsson and Peter Arvidsson, who are here from St. Athanasius Church, who know quite a lot about technology and how these technologies may emerge and evolve. So we'll be asking you some questions. Fast forwarding to the end of these 10 folks, one is named Aubrey de Grey. Anyone ever heard of Aubrey de Grey? Who predicted that human lifespan may be extended to 1,000 years each. And that some people living now, currently, are among those who will live that long. Hard to feature. Makes us think of Methuselah in the Bible, right? Didn't he live to be 900 some years old? So maybe we're going back to the future with that. Now here's a futurist who has a name I just love, Faith Popcorn. Anybody heard of Faith Popcorn? She championed cocooning. And here's what cocooning is. It sounds very familiar, especially after COVID. People are overloaded with stimulation and they tend to stay home and watch videos instead of going to movie theaters, and they have takeout food brought in from restaurants. She accurately predicted that many women who had gained professional opportunities eventually would become disillusioned with the corporate rat race and quit in search of healthier, simpler lives. Well, go Faith Popcorn. And lastly, John Nesbitt. Do you remember John Nesbitt, who wrote Megatrends? This was closer to my college years, 1982. I didn't realize that he had been not only a Marine and an IBM executive, but he was an assistant to two presidents, President Kennedy and President Johnson. But his book, Megatrends, predicted the rise of a fast-moving global economy and a society for which information would be a commodity on par with manufactured products. Well, that certainly seems true. And his 1990 sequel, Megatrends, and 2010 sequel was China's Megatrends. So he was really positing that a new social system would emerge from China that would eventually serve as an alternative to Western-style democracy. Well, it's all very fascinating to think about these 10 futurists. And Patrick Keeger also notes 5 futurist predictions that I think are worth mentioning this afternoon. We already alluded to the first one, that computers will be smarter than us and part of us. And as scary as that blog post was from the top of our presentation, it's really coming true. Also, the second prediction, we'll be able to print transplantable copies of human organs. And you think about laser printers, 3D printers, I have no idea how that all works. Some of you do, and some of our students at Neighborhood Youth Association are very good at it, thank God. So it's even said, and Karen Euler very skilled nursing professional. We're talking about drugs that may be crafted by the transfer of a few molecules. Sorry, I didn't say that articulately. And also, like unto this, products will be put together molecule by molecule. We'll ride an elevator into space, which reminds me of something. And our video clip will be queued up, and we'll think a little bit more about riding an elevator into space. Also, this futurist predicts that we will live in floating cities, that cities will float on the ocean. And if you've ever made a crossing on the QE2 or the Queen Mary, yeah, go ahead. Everyone knows what this is going to be. Remember them?
Meet George Jetson.
Hi, George.
His boy, Al Wright. Daughter, Judy.
There she goes.
Jane, his wife.
Hi, Jane. There we go. Thank you for that. Yes, George worked at Spacely Industries, and do you remember how his boss would come in on the big screen, on the TV screen, and we kids thought, wow, how did that work? But in COVID, certainly many of our supervisors came through to us on the Zoom screen, didn't they, and said this and that, and so the future came true. But I think the futurist who is considered the leading futurist of today is a German thinker named Gerd Leonard. Gerd Leonard. And we're going to queue up one of his websites here. His mantra and mission is people, planet, purpose, peace, prosperity. He mastered alliteration, didn't he? People, planet, purpose, peace, and prosperity. And Gerd likes to say that the future is already here. We haven't just paid enough attention to it yet. Many of us are too busy coping with the present challenges to explore the future in any real depth. And when we do, our hopes and fears often run away with us, resulting in either utopias or dystopias. And so if we may just kind of cue his talk, just a little bit of the beginning, there it is. Let's listen to him for just a few moments.
Good morning, guten Morgen, bonjour à tous, salamat pagi. It's great to be here with you today. So I'm here to speak about the future, which is currently kind of a strange topic. Because when we look at the future, we mostly have fear and concern about all the things piling up that seem to be issues. So one of those topics, of course, is this kind of convergence of humans and machines that's happening around us. It's like when you speak to ChatGPT on your mobile phone, it's kind of like you speak to a human. Never mind if it's Scarlett Johansson or somebody else, feels very human. But of course, it's a machine. So now we're entering the age of cognitive computing, of intelligent machines. And I think it could be heaven or it could be hell. It could be heaven if we can invent new medications, if we can solve cancer, we can solve climate change, we can invent nuclear fusion, we can do protein folding, we can do all those hundreds of things, right? We can go digital with money. But it could be hell if we don't have any regulation in place, any standards, any rules, if we end up with 2 or 3 private companies essentially reinventing humanity.
I think we can stop
This is a larger
there.
mission, of course.
That's a scary thought, isn't it? 2 or 3 private companies essentially reinventing humanity. Wow. So I commend Gerd Leonard to you to watch in more depth at your leisure, gerdleonard.com. Now I'd like to move to a local example of futuring, which some of you will resonate with immediately. St. Vincent's Medical Center on the corner of Alvarado and 3rd. Thank you. It is now the St. Vincent's Behavioral Health Campus. Have you followed this story? It is a wonderful, wonderful development. As you know, the Daughters of Charity were unable to continue operating the hospital, and I wonder what the connection and interplay between the Daughters of Charity and the Immaculate Heart nuns might have been back in the day. But St. Vincent's was Los Angeles' oldest hospital. It was founded in 1856, as I said, by the Daughters of Charity. And it operated for many years, first more in the Pueblo and then at Beaudry and Sunset in the 1880s. But as you're gathering, it has been a long time, amazing healthcare institution in Los Angeles. It is older than the Hospital of the Good Samaritan of Episcopal provenance and now part of PIH Health. But in any case, the hospital sat empty for a number of years. You'll remember the publisher of the Los Angeles Times bought the property, and the Council of Religious Leaders, of which Bishop Taylor is a member, advocated for someone somewhere to take this property over as a residence for the unhoused, and particularly those suffering from mental illness. Well, do you know that is what has happened thanks to the organizers of St. Vincent Behavioral Campus? And you begin to see on the screen some of the things that, as we can kind of scroll down a little bit, I think would be good. Bishop Dillon probably takes us right back to your line of work, doesn't it, of people on the street and helping them. But just take a look at, maybe we need to go to Meet the Team, which was just a little click, yeah, Meet the Team. Look at this team. When you talk about futuring, who could have thought that all of these people, keep going down, please. Look at all these professionals. Don't they look shiny and able and capable, all of them? There's Greg Boyle, thank you so much. So I really commend this to you for future research, the St. Vincent Behavioral Campus. Talk about futuring. They really envisioned what was possible and did something about it. And of course, Greg Boyle with Homeboy Industries have just purchased the Angel Academy in the Hollywood Hills, thank goodness, and will have residential services for unhoused mentally ill there as well. St. Vincent, the old medical center, has 800 rooms, so this is really going to be an accomplishment. Does anyone here know any of the organizers of that project? Yes, Conrado, of course you do. Fabulous. So now, wow, that's wonderful. Well, we'll be talking to you more, so if we can help in any way, I know we all would like to, wouldn't we? All right. So that was a real blessing, and to think that the Los Angeles Council of Religious Leaders advocated for that early on, and someone, I'm not saying the two are related, but it's really nice that the Holy Spirit heard our prayers at that time. You know, the Daughters of Charity were interesting to read about. They had the coronets in their habits, the very large sort of flying nun outfits, remember that? And they also founded a school and an orphanage, which was related to one of our founders in the Episcopal Diocese, Don Benito Wilson. And Don Benito, at various times, his land grants extended from Riverside initially all the way to the harbor at the time of his death. And so he didn't own all that land at one time, but he was amazing. And he gave the first property for St. Athanasius Church, which was at Temple and New High Street, roughly diagonal to the present City Hall. And so he also gave the land for the Church of Our Savior in San Gabriel. But he sold his estate, which was roughly where Union Station stands today on Alameda. And so he sold to Sister Scholastica, whose feast we just celebrated on Tuesday. He sold the land to her. And so the rest is history. But it's here again, remembering and futuring go hand in hand, don't they? Our next exercise in futuring this afternoon is venturing into how to imagine how we will help our society recover from the current federal attacks on our democracy. Earlier in this week, I commented on the facts that we didn't have fax, we didn't have email, we didn't have Zoom. And I also said we didn't have agents of the state engaged in evil and lawless kidnapping of innocent children, courageous women, and hardworking men on our local streets and nationwide. Let us resolve to create a future free of these horrors and return to common decency and justice. Kyrie eleison, right? And let us claim and work for hope. And one who is pointing the way, you know this, is Stacey Abrams, the lawmaker in Georgia, author, thinker. She describes herself as, well, I'll find it here, excuse me. Lost my place a little bit. But her destination is telling stories. She's big into narrative, shaping vision, and building power, whether it's starting a company or writing a book or running for office or fighting for justice. And, here's what I was looking for. She describes herself as a civic strategist, a storyteller, and a problem solver. And we can follow in her footsteps, I think, in that. This past February the 1st, Sunday, I had the opportunity to hear Stacey Abrams give a keynote Founders Day address at the First AME Church in Los Angeles. And in a minute, I'd like us to play a little clip of that speech that she gave. It borders between a sermon and an address, really. But as Sherry said, one of our takeaways, we need takeaways and we need action items from our Lunch and Learn exercise. Please write down and plan to visit StaceyAbrams.com. That's not hard to remember when you're scrolling next time. StaceyAbrams.com. I think you'll be as impressed as I was with all that she is doing. And also the 10 Steps Project, the 10 Steps Project. We'll get you into her 10 steps. She has 2 sets of 10 steps, doesn't she? The first is 10 steps to autocracy and authoritarianism, which talks about what has caused the problem. And this will take Diane Pound and me back to our NYA classroom the day we screened parts of this for the students to get them involved in thinking about this. We're going to focus on the 10 steps to freedom and power, but first let me read the 10 steps that identify autocracy and authoritarianism. First person, and Stacey Abrams says these don't all have to happen in order. 1, win the last free and fair election. 2, expand executive power. 3, capture the other branches of government. 4, break government. 5, install loyalists. Does this sound familiar? Attack the truth. Scapegoat vulnerable communities. Number 8, destroy support systems, normalize state violence, end democracy itself. And by the way, Stacey Abrams says, this is not coming, this is already happening and has already happened. So now it's time for the 10 steps to freedom and power, which you'll hear Stacey say are commit, share, organize, mobilize, litigate, disrupt, deny, engage, elect, and demand. I can think of no better way to start off Black History Month or any month of the year than as we did at FAME, First AME Church. And you know, FAME is the 5th oldest continuing congregation in the city of Los Angeles. First, La Placida is the oldest. Second, Wilshire Boulevard Temple. Third, St. Athanasius. Fourth, First Congregational. And 5th, FAME, founded by Biddy Mason, the entrepreneur who did so much to make opportunities possible, and her legacy lives on. So let's listen to Stacey Abrams for a few minutes at FAME, may we?
You don't have to destroy elections, you just have to destroy our faith in them.
That's right.
She'll come in here in a minute.
You destroy democracy.
It's all good.
When Americans no longer believe that showing up matters.
Yeah.
That by the time they cast the ballot,
I
the
can hear her
decision is
faintly.
made. But I've spent a lot of time telling you the 10 steps.
While this is queuing up, I'm going to say that Stacey Abrams's ecumenical and multi-faith call to action is helping us with dynamics in our own Southern California multi-faith community. And it's great that we can apply them.
We've hit every step. We are now in a competitive authoritarian nation. There is no question. But if there are 10 steps to autocracy and authoritarianism, I'm here to tell you, Southern California, there are 10 steps to freedom and power. There are 10 steps to get us where we need to be. There are 10 steps that can move us forward. There are 10 steps that we can take. And those 10 steps are that we commit. Say commit. We have to commit ourselves to knowing where we are and whose we are and why we are. We have to commit. Step 2, we have to share. Say share. We got to tell folks about it. We can't use social media for recipes unless that recipe is how we restore democracy. We got to share. Number 3, we got to organize. Say organize. We got to come together, and where 2 or more are gathered, there's a church. When it's 3 to 5, you got a choir and an usher board. We got to organize. Step 4, we got to mobilize. Say mobilize. We got to show up in those hard spaces, because ICE isn't just coming for immigrants. They're going to send other folks to go after the homeless. They're going to send people to go after the poor. They're going to say that the reason they need to know your SNAP rolls is so they can go and arrest somebody who got $5 extra that they shouldn't have gotten. They're not going to stop with immigrants. They are starting with them so they can come after all of us. But we've got to mobilize to protect each other. Say mobilize. We've got to litigate. Say litigate. That's not just about lawyers doing what they've got to do. We've got to argue the point. We've got to stop conceding the terrible. We've got to fight. And that means litigate. Litigate isn't just about filing a lawsuit. It's about filing our grievances. If you've got paper and pen and a voice, tell the people in power to do their jobs for you. We got to litigate. Say litigate. We've got to disrupt. Say disrupt. Disrupt. Bishop Brookins pointed out her father up there, who I understand was a great disruptor. And he helped elect the great disruptor. And Richard Allen was one of the first disruptors on these shores. Because disruption is about shaking us up and convincing us that more is possible. I say disruption, but I think about agitation as a similar thought. I'm from Georgia, so I'm going to quote Hosea Williams. Hosea Williams used to say that it's not the water that cleans the clothes and the washing machine. It's not the soap that you put in. It's the agitator. It's the agitator that knocks against the dirt, that knocks against the slime, that knocks against the corruption, that knocks against the authoritarianism, and knocks it right out. We've got to be disruptors. We've got to be agitators. But we also have to say deny. Say deny. No. We will not let them steal our language. They tried to steal woke. They tried to steal DEI. We let them take our language because they know if they can change what we say, they can change what we believe about ourselves. But the AME church and the ecumenical family that is here knows better than that. Mm-hmm. I may be United Methodist, but I visit the AME church a lot. And I'm here to tell you that when we deny them the ability to tell us who we are, we remember whose we are. I talk about DEI everywhere because it makes them mad. But it also reminds us that we have the right to say it. When I didn't win my election in 2018, and I'm not confused about that, I got into a little bit of trouble for my non-concession speech. I acknowledged that I lost. I even acknowledged who won. But I refused to say that the system was right. I would not deny the truth of my eyes to appease those who wanted me to be kind about it and stoic about it and go on about my business. We have to deny them the right to rewrite our reality. And then we have to engage. Say engage. Engage. You are here because this is the beginning of the next wave of the work that has to be done. We have to call on those in power, some of whom are sitting among you, and some of you have to rise up and become them. We have to engage those who hold power on our behalf, but sometimes you got to do the work for them. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you got to write down the laws that you need and the language that you deserve and the things they need to fix. We can't hope that they see what we see and feel what we feel. We have to engage. Say engage.
Engage.
Because we will only have the democracy we are willing to work to have. And when we engage, we get to step 9. We elect. Say elect.
Elect.
There are elections happening in 2026. And those elections matter. And thank you to California for nullifying Texas. Thank you. But we have to do more than just elect new leaders. We've got to elect a new belief system. We have to decide that elections are the starting gun. They are not the finish line. We have to elect the belief that we are entitled to more. We are entitled not just to 2028, but we're entitled to a fair census in 2030 that will continue the count to 2040 when this becomes a majority minority nation where pluralism is real, where we are all together. We are multiracial, multi-generational. We are multi-religious. We are multi-ethnic. And there are more of us than there are of them. We've got to elect, but that starts now. Because if we've done those 9 steps, then we get to step 10, where we can demand the nation that we deserve. Say demand.
Demand.
We can demand the grace that we have earned. Say demand.
Amen.
We can demand the promise that we are entitled to. But we can't demand that which we do not know we deserve. And we cannot make demands when we are looking for somebody else to deliver. I told you my father worked in the shipyard in Mississippi.
we can
lived in
probably
Gulfport. And
stop there. And she tells a very powerful story about her father being out in the cold and her mother taking the car out to find him. And she said, Robert was his name, "Where is your coat? Where is your jacket? You're freezing out here in the rain." And he said, "Well, I gave it to an individual who was sitting on the side at the beach, and he needed it more than I do because I knew you'd come for me, and he has no one to assist him." Very powerful story. Well, it's hard to follow Stacey Abrams and bring home an address right here, but I'm going to try my best. And to do so, I'm going to invoke nobody other than George Regas, George Frank Regas, our rector in All Saints, Pasadena, when I was a young adult. And he used to say, there is no better way to build community than uniting people in a shared project. God is in the work, he would famously say. And this is what we're discovering here. We who were involved in the multi-faith space in Los Angeles were simultaneously working on a forum and panel discussion, and at the same time we're futuring what our interactions and collaboration can be going forward. We're organizing and we're mobilizing, as Stacey Abrams has said. The forum is titled A Multi-Faith Response to Our Current Constitutional Crisis. It is planned for Wednesday, March the 11th, 10 a.m., right here in this same room. Mary Kirchen has handouts ready to go. Thank you for that. So great. The panel will be moderated by Salam Al-Mariyati. The keynoter is none other than civil rights attorney Connie Rice. And isn't it something that her cousin is Condoleezza Rice, but she is Connie Rice, the civil rights attorney, much different. Bishop Taylor will be on the panel. And no political leaders have been invited to speak. This is the faith leaders' response. And key to the organizing and hosting of the whole thing is the Gibord Center Religion Inside Out. Thank you, Dr. Lowe Sprague. And the live stream will be on their website, the Gibord Center's website, so we're grateful for all of that. Don't miss this opportunity. Mark your calendars, register, and come back to this very space. And what I want to further affirm about that gathering is the way in which the idea surfaced and the planning proceeded in the context of a multi-faith coalition. Multi-faith coalition, very important. The model is key in futuring a new multi-faith dynamic, again, shaping desirable outcomes by understanding current trends, challenging assumptions, and creating actionable vision for what is possible and sustainable. And then again, I have turned to the amazing AI, that evil source, for asking the question, what is the future of interfaith? And what we're learning is that multi-faith is really a preferred term because it respects everyone's tradition and beliefs without trying to seek one sort of religious expression that interfaith might imply. So here's what AI had to say to us. The future of interfaith is shifting from passive dialogue toward interfaith action, focusing on collective project-based cooperation to address global crises like climate change, social equality, and polarization. I think they've been to the 5 commissions of the Immaculate Heart Community. This evolution emphasizes radical inclusion, moving beyond mere tolerance to embrace diverse identities while leveraging digital platforms for wider youth-oriented engagement. Jordana, doesn't it sound like, and Sherry and others, like what we do right here, right here. With Changeist, I want to hold up the organization Changeist. Are some of you familiar with Changeist? Their founder, Mario Federline, who was a Clinton fellow, an Obama fellow, excuse me, he calls it a Little League for Civics. And so every Saturday, this room is filled with 160 to 200 young people finding out what it means to do civic engagement. And as I've mentioned, likewise, our Neighborhood Youth Association, there's a flyer back on the table. These 12 are on their way to college, everywhere from Wellesley to LA Trade Tech. And they are doing wonderful things because futuring is really about empowering youth, isn't it? So between Changeist, NYA, and other organizations that you're involved with, let us be sure we're empowering and equipping our youth to guide us through these days of AI and other uncertainties. We need their expertise and we need the hope that they inspire. So our Los Angeles Multi-Faith Coalition that is emerging here organically was sparked by the vision of the late Umar Hakim Day, a dynamic Muslim faith-based community organizer and activist. And he got his start as an Episcopalian, as a child. He and his mother attended St. Martin's Episcopal Church in Compton, where Canon Ruthie Leonard ran an after-school program that goes to the point of after-school programs like NYA. And Canon Leonard was one of my favorite people I ever met in these 40 years of work. But Umar, sadly, he died way too young this last fall. Some of you knew him and know him. And he was intent on mobilizing us for voter engagement and sacred resistance, knowing that the current national political and governmental circumstances are likely to worsen before they improve. He was very aware of that. And he always said, even before this recent initiative, he would say, what are you working on? That is what he would say, ask each one of us. What are you working on? What important work are you doing? So please know how very glad it makes me and my colleagues who are here in this effort to report that Umar's very forward-looking vision is being realized in sustainable ways. So more as we go on that. And specifically, we who are the several co-sponsoring organizations have gone to our unique strengths and gifts and brought them to bear in the coordinating of the upcoming forum. I think this is fair to say, isn't it, Gibord Center friends? One of us would say, I can do that. And another would say, oh, I can do this. And Salam would say, we can do this, and guide us. And it's just been so organic and so with the times. Because many of our interfaith, and I use interfaith term advisedly, knowing that it's a bit outmoded now, sometimes they're constrained by what they can agree to. Some religious traditions do not allow political activity. So to have a container such as the Multi-Faith Coalition, everyone can come alongside and be joined together. We feel this is a bit of futuring at work, and I hope you agree. And in closing, it's all very much akin to what we do on a daily basis here at the Commons, where we share sacred space together with Immaculate Heart Community and Nefesh, as we've talked about, that meets here for weekly Shabbat services alternating between Fridays and Saturdays. And I strongly encourage you to come and be blessed by a Nefesh Shabbat service. They are dynamic. The music, people spilling out onto the patio from the sanctuary space, it is just the best. So thank you for that. And of course, we're working alongside Seeds of Hope, the food security ministry that operates here, This morning, more than 260 clients were served, households, and boxes of food even taken to families who are afraid to leave their homes because of the current immigration activities. So it's really a spiritual gift exchange here every day at the Commons, and we are confident that we're doing the work of effective futuring as we explore ways to deepen our collaboration and sharing resources. And a guide for us in all of this, finally, is the Immaculate Heart Community. You are uniquely and deeply experienced in futuring, both spiritually and in terms of hands-on outreach to neighbors in need and advocacy for justice. You're led by the rebel hearts of the 1960s, some of whom are here. Go Rebel Hearts. You were pioneers in futuring, creating a new vision that has proven both in terms of possibilities and sustainability time and time again. So on behalf of the diocese and on behalf of Bishop Taylor, I thank you, Immaculate Heart Community, for bringing your unique gifts to this place, your future-forward thinking. From Corita's art to the power-up prayers to the work of the 5 commissions, your brilliant board members, officers, and staff, the Immaculate Heart Community brings us gifts of creativity, of innovation, and faithful friendships. Really, your arrival here in 2023 was literally a splash of color in a space that had been darkened by isolation during COVID. Allow me to add that one of the persons most integral to that transformation has been the late Rod Stevens. We were deeply inspired by him and his gifts, from hanging art to leading prayers, and we join with all of you in mourning the loss of his presence in our midst. And who, I ask you, had a more vibrant and innovative memorial service than he this last Sunday here in this same room? May light perpetual shine upon Rod. Lastly, I'm glad to share with you that members of our 3 groups, Immaculate Heart, Nefesh, and the Diocese, find ourselves on the threshold of a conversation. A new level of thinking about possibilities for even more, living more fully into this shared sacred space, as Rabbi Susan calls it. Rabbi Susan is the recipient of a Stanton Fellowship from the Durfee Foundation, which allows her to explore sacred space and how sacred space influences life in Los Angeles. She's been to Istanbul. She's had conversations in Berlin and in Haifa and Omaha, Nebraska, where they have a wonderful tri-faith initiative. So Rabbi Susan is leading us forward in thinking about shared sacred space. We have the opportunity to apply for a grant from the Nonprofit Sustainability Institute to talk about this even further, and with our new incoming bishop, Antonio Jose Gallardo Lucena, whom we look forward to welcoming in May and consecrating in July. How might this look in the future? Are there things we can do more deeply together? And oddly enough, get this, the consultant that NSI recommended to us is an individual who has 3 qualifications. She is a graduate of the Immaculate Heart High School. I'm not going to use her name at this moment. I will later. She is, her cousins are members of Nefesh. She is of the Jewish faith herself. And she is well known to Bishop Taylor and me from working in the county in various interfaith activities. So could you ask for a more informed consultant than she? So here we are. We're living into the future. We're going together in community. Let's stay close to one another, walk together, build community, make meaning along the way. Thank you very much for this time. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you. Together we succeed. There you go. We're fired up. We're mobilizing. Greetings to folks on Zoom. I know you're there, and we've got questions moderated by Dean. Dean, you do such a fabulous job on everything. Thank you.
Thank you. I
so much.
appreciate it. Can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. So we're going to go ahead and begin the Q&A process. Again, just real quick, we're going to alternate between questions in person and on Zoom. If there's not someone on Zoom that has a question, we'll just migrate back to the room and kind of keep it open. So we do have 2 people passing mics. Again, we're very, very far away. We'll let you know kind of who we see first. Pinky promise, no favorites or anything. And we'll go ahead and get started. Anyone in the room that we can go ahead and take first? Oh, don't be shy. Now is not the time. Someone want to kick us off? Anyone on Zoom as well, please feel free to either type your question or let us know.
It's kind of a relief because I doubt I would have any answers to any question that would be answered. Here's one from Tuchis.
Ah, there we go. Got a brave soul over here.
So I'm a Luddite. I actually have gotten off social media and I refuse to use AI because of who's in control of AI. So what I've done is go on Firefox and use DuckDuckGo because you have options to not use AI. You can disable it. Google has now put AI to scrub all your emails, so I'm leaving Google to go to Proton, which will not allow that. Are there any other tools? But I'm not against AI, I'm against who is in control of it.
Yep.
And especially with this administration who is encouraging it, I don't trust it at all. Are there any other tools that you know of out there that we can use?
The first thing I would say is resonating with everything that you just said about caution. I'm not as much of an expert to know what tools to recommend, but I'll bet there are people in this room who have suggestions. And so does anyone have a suggestion that would help answer Tuchis' question? It sounds like you're ahead of most of us. Please, yes.
Well, so this isn't a suggestion to not use AI. It's just instead of using ChatGPT. So, because again, AI we are in AI. So to not use the tool is like handicapping yourself at this point. So I suggest using Claude AI to help you write things instead of using ChatGPT to help you think things. So that it's not taking over your creative ability or your own consciousness, but it's allowing you to still use the tool without it harvesting your ideas or your information.
And say the name again, Claude?
Claude AI.
Is that like Claude, the verb, or the name Claude?
CLAUDE.
The name Claude, okay. Claude AI. Wow. Together we succeed.
Hacked by a company called Anthropic, which, if we're really tracking things back, also has investment from Amazon, I believe, in Google, but seems to somewhat have a pledge towards ethical usage of AI kind of baked into its DNA for now. So we'll see.
So we'll see.
Again, they're like right now, the tools, because I feel like the tools, because everybody's giving away their parents have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on their education, and those people are willing to give it to Altman for free. Because of those like who controls it now, and also because it's going very quickly. Everybody's saying, oh, you're going to be left behind. I feel the technology, by that time when I'm ready to trust it, it'll be advanced enough with the billions of people that are putting their information into it. I won't have a problem. It's like, for me, it's like saying, oh, you won't be able to use the internet because you didn't use it before. Well, everybody's using the internet. So I'm not worried about being left behind with regard to technology, because it will be so good that, I could do it. It's just right now in its formation, I'm not happy with it. And I also don't like, I don't like what it's doing to the planet. It's increased fossil fuels. It's putting these, every time you use AI, it is increasing fossil fuel usage. There are people who who are in poor communities right now suffering because of all the energy depots that are being created for AI.
Yeah.
And for me, that is just unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
So hopefully there are more tools.
These are key insights, and thank you so much for sharing them. You know, an idea occurs to me, Immaculate Heart Community. Lunch and Learn also happens at La Casa de Maria in Montecito. And a speaker who is right there in Santa Barbara, an expert, Jim Stern. He is a member of Trinity Church, Santa Barbara. He has 30 years experience in the lead up to artificial intelligence. And I would strongly recommend him, and I can bet you dollars to donuts that he would accept if you would like to have him for a Lunch and Learn speaker at La Casa. So very fine. You know, I want to say too, while we're going to the next question, how grateful I am to my staff colleagues who are here this afternoon. You've taken time to join us. Our CFO, Susan Stanton, is here. Julie Kelly is here from the finance office. Well, Claire is here from Girls Friendly Society. And am I getting everybody? Thank you for coming this afternoon. It means a lot to me, colleagues. Bishop.
So you touched on it really briefly. I live in Alhambra, and we just, in Monterey Park, our neighboring city, we just advocated and fought against a huge AI data center, and now it's actually going to go on the ballot to let the voters approve whether this should be built in their city or not. My biggest concern with AI is like you said, not only the power consumption, but also like cities like Monterey Park that have the ability to assert themselves and to, you know, have the people come to city council and fight against something that's very ill thought out. What happens to the poorer communities? And this probably isn't really more of a question, except maybe a thought exercise. Like, you know, what's going to happen to impoverished communities that don't have a voice, or that because of the current situation with immigration don't feel they can go outside and actually express themselves against the government? And I think that's, for me, is the absolute biggest concern I have with AI, that it's going to wealthier and more stable communities are going to be able to say no, and then the impoverished communities are going to not have the ability to somehow voice their opposition to it. And it's going to, again, not so much a question, but just more of a thought comment.
Exactly, and we appreciate it so much. It's sparking things for us to think about. Dr. Robert Ross, who's the recently retired president of the California Endowment, this is key, and it's like Bishop Taylor's post this morning. He was talking about the domestic workers, the housekeepers in the hotel that have been cut back so far. And as he says, where are they ever going to find employment? You know, categorically, some of them will be enterprising and find something new to do. But by and large, people are being held back by this disparity. You're absolutely right. And so I want you to know that thinkers like Dr. Ross and these high-level folks in the state of California are trying to give this some thought. And Bishop Taylor's insights, as usual, are spot on. Who else has a question? Steve.
Bob, thank you for all of the examples. I mean, that's a lot to think about. It's a lot to do. So thanks for all that, because I thought that was great. So history rhymes. And so I was drawn to the idea of the Industrial Revolution, brought about enormous change, a lot of it in the negative. It also brought advantages, the beginnings of all the stuff that we're talking about now. And how do we kind of deal with the way in which it's infecting us in particular? And one of their toolkit cores is to undermine empathy. That all of these bad things, we might have the technology, but if we have empathy, we won't use it in that way. We won't target the poor communities. We won't target those places. And it is a conscious and repeated goal among politicians and the people who are supporting the AI people and so forth, where they say, you know, do you need empathy? And then we have individual ones, you know, from Elon on to other ones who are saying that's the problem with the world today, is that we do have empathy. So the connection between the human experience and the technology is grounded in this space, and they know they have to win that war. and to divide us so that we don't have empathy to our neighbors. So kind of the way that I was thinking is there any way in which, or is this a concept that we could start to work with, where a program or a united thing, and this is the core for faith communities, is to work on, publicize, do commercials, do any kind of activity that promotes empathy, breaks down those walls between you and your neighbor. When we were in Minneapolis, it was amazing that the people acted with empathy, and that overcame the ICE agents by seeing their neighbor as their neighbor. So do you know of any programs? Do you think that that would be a good idea for people to think in terms of and promote in any kind of public way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My thoughts turn to the connections when you say history rhymes. This will get at empathy in an indirect way. Later this month in February will be the 82nd anniversary of Executive Order 1099, which called for the imprisonment of Japanese Americans around the country. And here in Los Angeles, our beloved Father John H.M. Yamazaki, whose father, Dr. Yamazaki, was the first vicar of St. Mary's Japanese mission, started in 1907. And Dr. Yamazaki was key in the 1918 flu pandemic, and we did some research on him at that time, and his son took over the congregation in due time. And Pat and I knew him well, and we loved him. I can speak for you, can't I? John Yamazaki. Here's empathy. When we made a centennial video about the diocese in 1996, John Yamazaki, Father John, said, pointed to a picture of a barn in Santa Anita, and he said, "This was our chapel. Many important things happened there." He did not need to express bitterness, anger, sadness, grief. He said, many important things happened there. And somehow, I don't know why, but the Spirit just led me to bring that story up in terms of empathy. He had empathy, didn't he? And I think part of empathy is something that the Gibord Center is advocating too, which is understanding ICE agents where they come from. Isn't that right, Lo? Empathizing with people who find themselves in this very unsavory role of arresting people. We have a cafe up here on Sunset called Reggie's Cafe, and I go there for a sandwich every once in a while, or soup. And Reggie said, "Bob, you won't believe it. ICE came in here. They came in here last week, and they parked their car outside and came in." And I said, "Wow, how did that feel?" And he said, "I said to the man, how can you be arresting your own people? How can you do this?" And Reggie himself is a Latino. I thought, boy, Reggie, you could have been hauled off next. But no, he was courageous, and he said, "What are you doing?" Maybe that wasn't empathy. That was more confrontation, wasn't it? But the idea, I got started on empathy and see where I went. But to be truly empathetic, as you call us to the ICE agents, is really key. I'm not sure I've answered your question or raised anything new, but
anything else like that. They can hear me.
Some people on Zoom, our Zoom listeners.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, no, I was just saying, with the idea possibly of moving toward a conscious effort, and we do publicity campaigns, we do other kind of public service campaigns about a lot of other issues, but it seems there is an empathy deficit in the generations that are growing up now, where, you know, my parents' generation who taught it to me, they suffered through a war, and they suffered through the Depression, and they suffered through our common cause, you know, to get us to understand common cause and not fracture it. We turned it into word wars and all this stuff when some people tried to cross it before. I think we're ripe for something like that.
I think so too.
And that's what faith communities, why we're here, you know, is that they carried that. That's your treasure.
Absolutely.
Bob, it's Pam.
Oh, Pam, hey.
Hi. Thank you for such a beautiful presentation.
You're
It's
welcome.
really very touching. I did want to tell the group here that we send a follow-up after each Lunch and Learn that has a link to this video so you can share with others or re-watch it. I'll also work with Bob and Dean to make sure that some of the names and the links are shared. If you weren't able to write down some of the books and some of the topics, I think that will be great for follow-up. And then I wanted to hear just one or two more little bits about the youth activity that you do, and if you need mentors, volunteers, funds. I think that's such an interesting project, and to know that 100% of the kids get to go to college, get scholarships, I think is so motivating. So please share a little bit if you don't mind.
Thank you. I don't mind at all. And Diane Pound is with me in that work, and Sonia Hernandez. We had a board meeting this morning of the Neighborhood Youth Association. It is the oldest institution in the Episcopal Diocese, 120 years, and Karen Euler is a big cheerleader. We get together every Tuesday and gab and talk about NYA progress. And so the youngsters who come, it's mostly by word of mouth that they learn about Neighborhood Youth Association. They are all from low-income families, and this is, certified by the state and federal standards. And they have desires for career and college placement. And to answer your question, yes, mentors of all kinds. Some of you will remember Greg Richards, who is the former rector of All Saints Beverly Hills. He comes and mentors every month, and especially with middle school youngsters. Those are his specialties. He has a PhD in psychology in this area. So mentors, yes. Tutors, yes. And here is the big ask. We have two new classrooms, one in Inglewood and one in Crenshaw in Lemert Park at Christ the Good Shepherd Church. And we are trying to fill those classrooms with students. So if you know students who would like to enroll and qualify in the Lemert Park area, Crenshaw district, or in the city of Inglewood, we really want to fill those classrooms as soon as possible. So if we can put our heads together in future on that, that would be great. And I will say, as to fundraising opportunities, here is a pro tip on this. You know, Bishop Taylor's retirement, I think we all feel very, very grateful to Bishop Taylor for his leadership. And NYA has established a scholarship in his name. So you can do two things at once. You can honor Bishop Taylor and help a deserving student by contributing to the John Harvey Taylor Scholarship Endowment at the Neighborhood Youth Association. So thank you for considering that. That is just a joy. And thank you for the question. NYA, our motto is Together We Succeed. Thank you. Dr. Lowe, I think you're next.
Two things. One is, as we look at our media being taken over by those who are not quite as interested in the truth, I think we're called on to find ways to get information out there.
Yeah.
And I just put that out there as a thought for all of us, and whether that means doing commercials and getting them out. But it's something that I think we're going to have to come together and say, how do we do this? When I talked to my nephews back in Maryland about what happened in January when Trump was first elected, they say nothing happened why were all those nice people thrown in jail, and thank goodness they got him out. And so we have a job to do to educate people, and that's something we're going to have to be mindful of. The second thing I want to say is I want to just take a moment and say thank you, Bob, for 40 years, and to say thank you to God for the blessing that you are.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Our beloved Dolores has a question. This is the mayor of Echo Park. I'd like you to take
No,
her
no, no.
honor. Madam Mayor.
I just want to follow up on the theme of education and our youth. I think that it's very important that we bring back or enhance character education in our schools. Character education. My dear husband was an educator, a curriculum director, and an administrator. And at conferences where he would speak, he would say, you can teach this and you can teach that. But the most important thing that you can impact on your students is character. I wonder what AI can do with the development of character.
Wow, powerful. And therefore empathy as well. Let's all wish Dolores' late husband, Frank, a happy 89th birthday. I happen to know today would be his 89th birthday. So Frank and Dolores. Long may you wave. All the character you built there at the school, the Blue Ridge Academy, Blue Ridge School.
Near Charlottesville.
Terrific. Wow. Futuring as you went. Well, and not to shift gears too quickly, but going back to the question of ChatGPT, in the course of preparing for this talk, I thought, well, maybe I should join ChatGPT. And then I read the disclosures, and I thought, nothing doing. I'm not going anywhere near it, just as you said, Tuchis. So whatever I gleaned was from Google and the AI overview that you get there. Well, I'll be glad to talk a little more after class, as they say. Always glad to talk with you. Lunch and learn are two of my favorite things, lunching and learning. I was always the kid who didn't get to go to recess because I was talking so much and I didn't finish my lunch. So lunching and learning, thank you so much. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bob. We have one more for you guys before we start packing up. This is a final call for those on Zoom as well for any last-minute questions, but we do have one more thing that we wanted to present as well, so I'll pass it over to Sherry.
Well, the future is now. It's now. It's in our face, isn't it? What a wonderful presentation.
Well,
You were
thank
so
you.
entertaining and informative and inspirational. And there's all kinds of things we can leave here doing, right? Everybody's going to do something different, right? On behalf of the community, Rob, we'd like to Rob.
It's okay.
Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
so
Sherry.
much.
Oh, golly.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. Yes, one thing we can do is watch more of the Jetsons. That'll be kind of
I
fun.
love that. Wow. All I had to hear is those first two notes, right? We knew what it was.
We
So.
knew what it was.
Okay. Dean has something else for us here. What is it that you want? Okay.
Just a final reminder, thank you all for joining this wonderful discussion. Please, 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 on your way out, conveniently, feel free to grab a flyer for all of the amazing events coming up. And then at the registration table, you can go ahead and sign up for Friends of the Heart and join in on those wonderful events from the inside. Thank you all for coming. And one more time, make sure you watch this on YouTube when it finally gets posted and share it with everyone you know. Thank you for coming.